Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cromulent Craic Show. I'm Dillhouse.
And I'm Duffy Beer, and we're just a couple of embiggen Egypts who are here to chat about every Simpsons episode from the very beginning.
So grab a Duff Beer, a crab juice, or a frosty chocolate milkshake, and let's get started. So Duffy Beer, how have you been doing?
I'm recovering from this season. It's currently after Christmas. I've been just surviving on Pringles, a diet of Pringles and gin.
We're in the void that's like
The
between
void.
Christmas Day and New Year's
I don't know
at the
what
minute.
day it is. I don't know what time of day it is even. I'm just here.
You don't know if it's like breakfast or lunch or dinner.
No,
It's just celebrations and Pringles
I
and
open
gin.
another tin of Pringles and get on with my day. Ugh.
So kind of fitting then if we're feeling a bit
You could say
like
I'm moaning.
you're moaning at the
Oh
minute, yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
Moaning Duffy Beer. Because we're looking at the sixth episode of The Simpsons today,
Yeah.
which is Moaning Lisa.
Moaning Lisa.
This was written by Mike Reese and Al Jean, wasn't it, Duffy Beer?
Directed by Wes Archer, so not Wes Anderson. And
It's too similar.
I keep saying it. And it aired in America all the way back on February 11th, 1990.
So we've
Probably
already...
around the time we released this episode.
Probably, yeah. So we've already looked at Mike Reese and Al Jean.
Yeah.
So this is the first Wes Archer one, isn't it, Duffy Beer?
No, we've seen Wes Archer already, but we kind of just overlooked him a wee bit. Sorry about that, Wes.
Well then we'll get stuck into him then have a look at
Yeah.
him today.
Yeah, so Archer was actually one of the original sort of three animators, along with David Silverman and Bill Kopp.
Cop, yeah.
Kopp. So he's worked obviously on The Simpsons. He worked on the Tracy Ullman shorts, and he subsequently directed a number of Simpson episodes, many of which had John Swartzwelder. So I think actually he did the Bart the General previous episode there, and so many of the John Swartzwelder written episodes he directed. Just coincidence, I don't know. And
Dynamic duo.
yeah, dynamic duo. And before becoming supervising director at King of the Hill, I think that's fine because I think I mentioned Herman felt like a King of the Hill character. It's all coming together.
This is all big Avengers movement where everything comes in.
My Herman conspiracy theorist brain on me. And so Wes Archer, he's worked on shows like King of the Hill, Futurama, Bob's Burgers, and Rick and Morty. So kind of like the big ones. Like
big adult TV
if he
shows,
hadn't
kind of.
done, like, all he was missing there is like Family Guy and South Park, and he would have just had his
Could have had the
finger dipped in every
Full
path.
House.
Yeah. He's actually he's the guy that started the Twister Mouth move on Bart. So whenever you see that ugly thing where Bart's neck is twisting one direction, his mouth's the other direction.
It's like his lower lip is like pointing one way and his upper lip is pointing the other.
And it's great when you see like stills of it. You're just like, how is Bart's face attached?
And this was intentional, wasn't
This
it?
was intentional. He just had that. It was kind of like his little sort of trademark thing, I think, in animation. He thought it was funny. But yeah, I was looking up Wes Archer. There's not a lot about Wes Archer really. I saw just a few things. I follow him on Instagram, and like his art's amazing.
Like, he's so talented, isn't
so talented. Like, you obviously forget these people studied art, but he has such cool, like, his paintings and everything. He
he?
just
Mixed media.
He's such a talented guy. But like, I just follow him on Instagram, and he's had a few tough times. He had like a detached retina there for a while. He was like literally blind in one eye. And he got it fixed and he's back. But
It was only around
he was
2022, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he was making all art during that, and he was actually like blind in one eye at the time, which just shows how super, super talented he is. And I read somewhere on an online interview, it's like with the journalists, and just it was a thing about that. Apparently, he went through. This is what he said. I don't want to like paraphrase, but it was like, he said, "quote: I'm very grateful to have recovered from a socially anxious personality with substance addiction on top. It developed early. By the time I graduated high school, I had been arrested and jailed on 5 separate occasions from age 8 to 18 for shoplifting, possession of marijuana, attempting to buy alcohol with a fake ID, restaurant theft, and evading arrest with a DUI. I had to get permission from my probation officer to leave the state of Texas and attend California Institute of the Arts. So just very interesting. I can imagine like a kind of little sort of
Troubled childhood, yeah.
yeah, I can imagine a biopic about like Wes Archer, to be honest, kind of like in a sort of American Splendor style
Yeah,
thing.
that'd be very cool if they did like a little animated kind of like story of his
Yeah.
life or something.
Just luckily, obviously, he's just I think he's pottering along doing his work and having a very successful career.
Enjoying his art and stuff.
Just I definitely recommend checking out his paintings. They're so cool, and like I actually think some of the background scenes in this particular episode, the Moaning Lisa episode, are just so gorgeous and cinematic that just you can see such a great eye for detail there.
This was the kind of like first time we noticed since we started rewatching it and doing the reviews and stuff, where it was like the proper ambient Simpsons kind of like that atmosphere. You see it a lot on Instagram where it's like Hey Arnold as well.
Hey Arnold animation.
Atmospheric.
Yeah, when you have that kind of urban, like in this episode where Lisa meets Bleeding Gums Murphy, spoiler, but she's walking through the streets of Springfield, and it's that really, you can, that kind of sort of, not the sort of lo-fi music you would listen to on YouTube kind of thing.
That a loop over these kind of shots of Springfield.
And just really cool, like the sort of Hey Arnold, just cityscapes kind of style, just where you could just take a screenshot of it. Like I think there is actually an Instagram page for that as well. I think I follow.
There is. I can't remember if it's like called Ambient Simpsons or Atmospheric Simpsons.
Yeah, that they just take these lovely, just little background scenes that are just they're gorgeous. The layout and everything.
Oh, The Simpsons has like, I know it's like usually looked at as like a very basic kind of a cartoon in terms of like drawings and stuff, but it's got some very lovely, beautiful shots in it.
It really does. Yeah, and so Moaning Lisa here, it's the first episode of the series really to focus on the character of Lisa Simpson, because
But in the ad for Duffy Beer, they overshadow Lisa,
yeah,
they show Bart as kind of the main character of the episode.
Yeah, like a fun thing I find are like looking at the TV ads for this, or there's like the TV Guide in America, and they would always have an ad for The Simpsons, and for this one, say for Moaning Lisa, they have just like it's like the picture of say Homer, Marge, Lisa, and Maggie are in one corner, and it's like, where's Bart? That little. And then meanwhile, Bart's like on another page, and he's like, I need my own space, man. And you like, and it's literally for the Moaning Lisa episode.
And it's a smart kind of a like gag in itself, I guess, where like the character is on the other page saying that I need my own space.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that they use Bart as the one who's like going through tough times, whereas in the episode it's Lisa. It's not.
Where it should be Lisa more so, but then obviously this is around the time where they were just so desperate to use Bart for any advertising, because it's like he was so popular. That's like, oh, people just want to tune in for Bart, it seems.
Yeah, he was the Mickey Mouse kind of, wasn't he, at the time?
Bart Mania was developing, and they were like...
They could have called it like the Bart Simpson Show.
The Bart Simpson Show. And it's like just, even like I noticed the ad for even the previous episode, the Bart the General episode. And Bart the General is like a kind of more serious episode, really, where Bart's getting bullied. And even then they had just a thing where he's like, oh, he's a troublemaker kind of thing. It's like, oh... And it's just, it has very little to do.
It's kind of like as if he was the one doing the bullying.
Yeah,
or something.
it's like, whoa, Bart the troublemaker. And it's just, it actually doesn't have anything to do with the actual plot. It's just like, we need to stress Bart is a troublemaker.
Not enough Bart in these ads.
It's like Poochie. It's like, where's Poochie?
We're heading into the 90s. This is edgy territory, guys.
We're getting there, guys. We're getting there, yeah. But for Moaning Lisa, so the idea was suggested by the Simpsons producer James L. Brooks. He wanted to do an episode where Lisa was sad and she didn't know why.
And James L. Brooks loves a kind of a more emotional touch to his episodes.
He's a sensitive, soppy guy, isn't he?
He is.
And so while writers Al Jean and Mike Reese were initially thrilled to write an episode pitched by Brooks, they liked the guy. They were unsure, what the depression themed episode, what they could do for it, how would it work?
This animated sitcom, like how could you take it seriously? Kind of.
Yeah, and it's very heavy, especially, and it's an 8-year-old as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and
this is kind of like, this was the episode to establish Lisa as a more introspective, kind of thoughtful character.
Yeah, because, in previous episodes, saying There's No Disgrace Like Home, she's just a badly behaved kind of child, basically just like Bart, really. And this episode more explores her sort of intellectualism and, you know, how she is a far more kind of like more
Deep
deeper,
thinker,
yeah.
kind of.
And yeah, and in German, well, I saw this episode is called Lisa Blast Trubsa, which literally translates to Lisa blows her sorrows. Make of that what you will. And another just funny little thing. So there's a band called Wolf Alice. I like them. You like them?
I like them a lot,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're an English band, English kind of indie band. And they have a song called Moaning Lisa Smile. And yeah, it's just a really cool grunge song, kind of. And apparently, so the lead singer, Ellie Roswell, or Rosell?
Rosal, is it?
Rousel, ooh. She stated that it was inspired by Lisa Simpson, saying they wanted to create a Lisa type character and follow her in her pursuit to happiness.
Yeah, so it's not actually just a coincidence that it's called Moaning Lisa Smile. It's
Yeah.
actually based on Lisa
Lisa,
Simpson.
I think that's really nice. Yeah, I really like Wolf Alice. Like,
Oh, they're great.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
great. They were one of the great indie bands of the kind of
Yeah.
mid 2010s
I
and
like
stuff.
don't you know they have very famous like Don't Delete the Kisses and that. Yeah, definitely recommend.
Stay tuned to see will that be the song or will we have some other song for later on in the ranking.
Ooh, I'm excited now.
But first, let's get into the context now.
Into the context.
Oakley dokley.
So, Moaning Lisa aired in America all the way back on February 11th, 1990.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have a wee look at the cultural context of the time here. See what was happening in the news around the world.
Reeling
for
in the years and Duff
Duff
Beers.
Beers.
Do. So February 11th, well, a lot was happening.
big
so
one, yeah.
big day today. Leading anti-apartheid campaigner Nelson Mandela had been freed from prison in South Africa after 27 years. He was the 27 Club. Oh.
Yeah, 27 years in prison.
Yeah. Obviously for opposing South Africa's racist apartheid system. Yeah. And I find this interesting really. So Ireland kind of has like a kind of connection with this with Nelson Mandela and South Africa in a way. So from the early 1960s, Ireland was very much opposed to the apartheid movement in South Africa. So it was like in 1983, there was a big gathering to see the Lord Mayor of Dublin, Dan Brown, unveil it was a bronze artwork called Tribute Head in honour of Nelson Mandela, who was obviously imprisoned at the time. And
so this was like our way of showing support for Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, being like an ally in that. And you had a few obviously well-known Irish sort of celebrities, kind of like Seamus Heaney, read poetry, and the Chieftains performed in front of the crowd. There was also Sean McBride was there, so he's like say a founding member of Amnesty International, very involved obviously in Irish politics. And then another sort of event, so then in 1984, Mary Manning, a shop worker in Henry Street in Dublin, so she was working in Dunnes Stores at the time, and she refused to handle say any goods from South Africa. So it was I think grapefruit in this case or oranges, and her union had issued directions to its members not to handle South African produce in protest of South African apartheid policies.
We're pretty good at that. I think we always kind of look to do a boycott or something of whenever there's a apartheid happening or
like even now at the minute
yeah
a certain conflict that's happening at the minute, although Ireland, well, we've recognized say Palestine
as a state,
as
its
and
own sovereign kind of.
I think there is calls for boycott at the moment as of this time of recording, so
definitely. But I think the Irish people, when they usually do take it into their own hands.
Yeah, we stand up to bullies.
Yeah.
We know what it's like to be colonized, and so Mary Manning anyway. So her and another shop worker, they continued to refuse to handle South African produce, and they were suspended. And then them and other members of the union went on strike then. So the strike then lasted until 1987, And then the Irish government actually banned the import of South African goods. And it was just like...
Really important
The
stuff.
ban was
Country
like a
like
result
Ireland.
of public pressure in support of the strikers. And, this was actually the first complete ban of South African imports by a Western government. So...
And we are kind of like, we're a small island, but we're the gateway to Europe from America and that. So we're a like significant island and a significant country. So us like banning those goods, I'm not like it wouldn't, it made it, not saying it made a big difference, but it was a statement, you know.
Oh, it was
a big statement towards it.
Yeah.
And as you said, it was the first Western country to do so.
Just saying. And, these people, these were just, working class people in Dublin, and they took a stand, and it just shows, though, like
the ripple effect of that kind
of. And obviously it came out of their pockets. I think a woman's house was repossessed and everything, and they still were standing their ground. Yeah.
Fair play to them.
Fair play. And then Christy Moore, I'm not a big fan of Christy Moore, I just have to say. Nothing personal, I just don't like his music. But he actually has a song, this famous song, it's called Dun Stores. And it is about the strike. And it's like, I cannot take your oranges, Mrs. You have to send them back. Dun Stores, Dun Stores. But,
so, Duffy Beer, you say you're not a Christy Moore fan, but you can do the pretty good tribute
act. I
act.
suppose that is a banger, so... But and then eventually the workers they actually met Nelson Mandela then on the occasion of his conferral of the freedom of the city of Dublin in 1990, and he was awarded the freedom of the city of Dublin in 1988. Which obviously at the time he was a political prisoner, but he did collect it then upon his release in 1990. So
and that's when they met him, when he called over.
Yeah, so actually,
so he got the award while he was in prison.
Yeah. Well, he kind of was just there behind bars going,
Thank you. I'll get that in 2 years.
And on the 1st of July then in 1990, so a few months just after this episode, Nelson Mandela arrived in Ireland for a 2-day visit. So yeah, just a few months from his actual release, he visited Ireland. And I'm tying this all into The Simpsons. I'm getting to a point.
You've got a really good wee segment lined up for us here, Duffy Beer,
so,
tie it all in.
Yeah, I saw a photo. There's a Instagram site called Official Bootleg Barsh. So I think there used to be like a Twitter page and Facebook page, but it got taken down. So it's very hard to find kind of images from the actual thing. But there's a picture from this event in Dublin. So there's supporters of Nelson Mandela gathering for his 1990 visit, and there is someone wearing a bootleg Simpsons shirt that has Nelson Mandela standing over a black Bart Simpson, and he's saying, "Mandela, the dude's my hero." So that was like...
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so, you end up down a rabbit hole then. So there was so many of these, like, say, bootleg Bart Simpson shirts. So obviously Bart Mania in the 90s, Bart became one of television's most popular characters. So he sparked like a whole cultural phenomenon then, and then that was known as Bart Mania. So Bart, obviously, he was the most prominent member or prominent Simpson character, and he featured on all like kind of merchandise around this time, particularly t-shirts.
He's usually kind of like, he's like a troublemaker kind of a guy, but it was like really taken by rebel groups and stuff like that, wasn't it?
Well, I suppose so. He's like kind of like, as you say, like a sort of troublemaker. So his rebellious streak then, that just really hit the 90s zeitgeist at the time. And just there was obviously official merchandise like made by Fox and that, but they just couldn't keep up with this insane demand. The people wanted Bart, and
we want Bart everywhere. We want Bart Nelson Mandela. We want Bart.
It's so
here, Bart there.
So people just came up with their own versions of him then, and were just like, this is just to fill the gap. And then bootleg Bart was born from this, of like people wanted more Bart. And so Anonymous say there'd be like t-shirt printers, amateur artists, they sort of co-opted him then into like every single cause. So even just things that were politically like opposed to one another. So, he'd be on a thing that would be basically propaganda, like American kind of all stuff for the Gulf War.
Oh, they loved the Gulf War stuff,
They
didn't
loved Jesus. It's just like if you think of Bart and you'd be like strangling Saddam Hussein,
they? Yeah.
this little 10-year-old
He's in like military gear.
military, like dressed as Rambo.
Him standing on like an Iraq on the map or something.
Yeah, and they're kind of gross then, because if you like say Bart, say strangling, say Hussein, or he'd be like peeing like his penis out, peeing all over like the
Ugh.
whole it would just be say like it'd be Iraq basically, and just kind of stuff, and it'd be like, oh, get a load of this, and it'd be just very xenophobic stuff.
Just the way to kind of like take something probably for like teenagers at the time or something and be like, oh, there's Bart from
Yeah,
The Simpsons on TV. He doesn't like this.
yeah,
I don't like this.
I don't like this. There was I've seen a few, so there's like
It's cool to go to war.
yeah,
Gulf War is
go
cool.
for. And then he'd have him like as Bob Marley or something. He's like, peace, man. But
Which one is it, Bart?
which one part? And then it's like, so I've seen ones of like AIDS awareness ones, so very 90s, kind of very early 90s, where obviously AIDS was like a huge issue. It still is, but it was like the bigger kind of element. You had more kind of, silence equal deaths shirts. And there's like, I saw one of Bart and he's holding up a condom and he's like, oh, silence equals death. And then there'd be another one of like that was a bit more kind of sort of, I don't know, liberal version, because then you had another one then of him pointing a gun at someone and calling them a very homophobic slur, which I will not repeat here.
Oh my God.
Just obviously, it's just like, it was something like, it's like, you got AIDS, so and so, and it's like, stop AIDS. And Bart with his gun is going to stop AIDS.
Yeah.
Other interpretations of him, had him as say very much like kind of black hip hop kind of stuff, fight the power.
It was really big in the kind of projects, kind of, wasn't it? Stuff kind of
Yeah.
did that type of graffiti.
He'd have like dreadlocks or kind of,
has his hood up, kind of.
yeah, or when you have that haircut, fade.
Yeah, fade, skin fade, wave
And
check.
wave check. And then Michael Jordan, like very much kind of like getting into the basketball kind of stuff really as well. He'd be like a Rastafarian, like weed smoker.
Well,
So
Michael Jordan probably met him because Michael Jordan, we all saw Space Jam, where
we also
Michael Jordan
Space.
can interact with cartoon characters. So.
Yeah, and he'd be like, "Hey, Bart,"
Yeah.
and he'd be like lifting them up, and Bart like scores that.
Yeah.
It's a hoop. What's a goal in basketball?
Oh, that is it like 3 points or something?
Oh, I don't know, guys. So
Shooting hoops.
yeah, and then so say Simpsons creator Bart Groening, so I don't think he owns the copyright really to any of the merchandise or much of it. So he's never really had a problem with bootlegs as far as I can see in like interviews and that. There's a funny episode of Portlandia. It's like Portlandia. It's like an episode where Matt Groening plays himself and he files a lawsuit against like Fred Armisen's character over a bootleg like Bart Scabson
Scamp.
because he's on to ska. And basically Matt Groening in the episode is like really self-aware, but he's just giving out about like, oh, this is terrible, and it's just more because it's off model. And he's like, look at the spikes are all wrong. And yeah, and just there's a bit more kind of just sort of, I think he was always fine with kind of bootleg stuff, but I do know there was issues with say 20th Century Fox, so they weren't, Jesus, if it was nowadays with Disney you'd have no chance.
Or they'd have the ninjas after you, like
Yeah.
lawsuits.
The
up
lawyers would
wazoo.
be at your door. But 20th Century Fox, they were trying to kind of stop sellers back in the 90s, with counterfeits and that. So just mostly stuff that was trying to pass as official merchandise. But they really cracked down, I think, fair enough. So anything that had Bart posing as a Nazi or white power skinhead.
There's an example that you've got here, Duffy Beer, where it comes really proper full circle from the Nelson Mandela Bart. Isn't there, when this Tom Metzger guy?
Tom Metzger. So, yeah, in 1991, Fox sued a white supremacist and neo-Nazi leader, Tom Metzger, for copyright infringement lawsuit, after it was discovered he was selling t-shirts showing Bart Simpson in full Nazi uniform saying, "Pure Nazi, dude."
Oh my
I
God.
couldn't find, I wanted to find a copy of this just to see a
What it
picture.
looked like.
But I can just kind of obviously guess in my head. But they really cracked down because it was going into proper like hate speech. Like Bart, like, you know, Bart is a Nazi. You could have Bart as a Ku Klux Klan leader. Who knows?
Yeah, if they didn't put the plug in it there.
Yeah, so it just, so I suppose anything, what I think the aesthetic of bootleg really is kind of anything that's like cheap looking or kind of just seems really incongruous with what the Simpsons kind of thing, like resexualized or weird kind of adult. You know, just it doesn't go
Yeah.
well with the Simpsons really. So I saw, like, for say an example, really recently actually, I saw a t-shirt and it was an official Simpson merchandise in a shop. I probably won't say the shop's name, but it's a big shop in Ireland.
Yeah,
you
I
probably
know the one you're talking about.
can guess the one. But everyone gets all their knickers and everything from this shop basically. But this, so we saw a t-shirt recently. We went into the men's aisle, me and you, and we saw a t-shirt there, and all it was a white t-shirt, you know, nothing on the back of it or anything, kind of blank looking really. And in the sort of like left hand corner where your chest is, there's just a picture of Marge sprawled out. She's just
Very
lying
promiscuous.
very promiscuous looking, very seductive. She's just lying down on her side and she's there, and whatever way the angle of her legs are, it just looks like it's upskirting her. You can see right up like her thigh and everything, and it looked so bootleggy. It just didn't feel, it felt really strange and creepy looking at it, and I felt like this is like something someone made in their basement or something.
A men's shirt as well, which made it weirder.
Yeah, like I know we were saying like, oh, if it was a woman's shirt, it would have some sort of message even or something. Just, I don't know, like Marge. I don't know what you could have from Marge really, but it's just Marge sexualized and that's it.
She wasn't even in a like one of her more kind of sexier outfits or something.
No.
It was just kind of her in the green dress.
Yeah, and like, you know, like this particular one has had t-shirts kind of like, say, that are tied in with Simpson references, like Stupid Sexy Flanders. Like that, I've seen a really cool Christmas jumper with that on it. And they've had other stuff with Simpson references that have, you know, Homer, you know, hiding into the bushes. And then suddenly you just have this weird, no reference, no quote, nothing. It's not even like kind of one of like Marge or Homer. It's just Marge. I don't know. Felt wrong. It just felt like, you know, oh, I would buy this the same place I'd buy all these like illegal DVDs.
Pellet guns and stuff.
Pellet guns, fireworks. It's like, do you want a Bart Simpson?
Yeah, it was
Or-
like something on a stall on holidays or something.
Yeah, do you know when you would go into a shop and you'd be like, oh, look at this, and then suddenly they'd be selling like, you know, these fake penises or something. But anyway, I think that's enough of, but basically on this day back then, Nelson Mandela was released from prison, which is
Yeah.
a better thing to remember than bootleg t-shirts. So, well, another news then on February 11th, James Buster Douglas knocks out Mike Tyson to win the world heavyweight boxing crown.
Douglas versus Tyson is one of your favourite Killer songs as well, Duffy Beer.
Yeah, I wouldn't say favorite, but I love the Killers, and it is a great song. When our song go down, it's very good, yeah. And coincidentally, a boxing game kind of is the B story in this episode, and the game that they play was supposedly based on Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Punch Out, classic.
Yeah, from 1980s. And then just on another, just because I go down these dark kind of like rabbit holes, I'm unfortunately into like the true crime stuff. There's like an eerie kind of coincidence because just the day before this episode, on the 10th of February, there was the Las Cruces bowling alley massacre.
Las
Yeah.
Cruces.
Yeah, Cruces. Yeah. It's unfortunately it was like this thing where it's a mystery to this day. Two people just literally walked into a 10-pin alley in New Mexico and they killed 4 people, and they've never found the culprits at all. And like just random thing, and I just find that eerie because in this episode there's just a random mention of Barney's Bolorama and has nothing to do with the plot. It's just
Oh my God. And
I just think it's a weird coincidence kind of thing. The case is still unsolved to this day, really, and yeah, it's just one of these true crime rabbit holes you go down.
this was the day before the episode.
The day before the episode, so it's just strange. Like there was the boxing kind of thing with Mike Tyson. Then there's this bowling alley thing. I don't know, just.
Because I think I remember the Barney's bowling around a bit where he's like looking at the TV.
It's so random. It's nothing
It's
to do with
just
the episode,
on
really.
the news, isn't it, on the
Yeah,
TV?
it's just a thing they watches, and then it's just a thing. Oh, Homer, don't be worrying about that.
Yeah.
So, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids was number 1 at the UK box office, and then there was a little indie independent movie, I'd say, that was number 1 in America. A movie
The
called
biggest stars of the 90s.
one of the biggest Steven Seagalamania.
Yeah.
Instead,
There's Bartmania and Steven Seagal-mania.
hope you got your bootleg Steven Seagal t-shirts ready.
There's Steven Seagal Mandela painting out there, graffiti somewhere right there.
Somewhere there. So he had his movie Hard to Kill.
We love the trailers for these Duffy Beer, don't we? It's always like you can tie like Steven Seagal is name of the movie in with a lot of them.
Steven Seagal is
Under Siege.
under
Steven Seagal is like hard to kill.
Hard to Kill. Steven Seagal is submerged.
Yeah.
And so on.
The other one I know of is and it actually works like this as well, is Steven Seagal is on deadly ground.
On deadly ground.
And it's the one where like they're kind of insinuating that he's like a Native American Eskimo type person.
Oh, the one with Michael Caine.
Michael Caine, Dr. Cox from
Dr.
Scrubs
Cox,
is in it.
John C. McGinley, I think.
And Hard to Kill is kind of similar to this, where it's got like revenge. It's got like, well, on Deadly Ground has got like an oil company that are taking the land, and we all know that Steven Seagal is like a one with nature kind of dude. You know, he's a bit he's a bit spiritual in it, but he's not spiritual enough to do some bad things to bad people.
Yeah, he's like probably a pet polar bear in it, I think.
Yeah.
Probably. There's like hot babes in the snow.
Well, you'd know yourself, Duffy Beer. Like the babes just can't resist Steven Seagal.
No,
Once he comes with that ponytail and that staring face.
That hot ponytails, leather jacket, you know. He's well, in this movie he's called Mason Storm. Mason Storm is hard to kill. So he's a detective, and he wakes up from a coma after like, I don't know what happens. There's a big shootout between him and some villains anyway. He's in a coma.
Sounds like this should be a prequel or
Yeah.
a sequel to something.
And then he's like, I'm gonna catch the people responsible for killing my wife. And then next thing he's like snogging the face off some nurse or something. It's like he's had time to grieve. He's woken. He's like been awake for an hour, and this hot babe's here.
It probably felt like yesterday when they killed his wife, because 7 years in a coma isn't kind of.
Yeah, he's like, and then he's like, gotta shoot these people. What? Who am I avenging? Huh? Oh yeah, my wife.
I love how they were able to fit in both the kind of like, it's got that kind of like dad revenge fantasy kind of plot of like, if they kill my family, I'm going to kill every last one of them. But then he can also still get the girl by having the plot device of his wife being killed 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And he can still be ethically right in that
Yeah,
situation.
his wife is dead. She would want him to move on.
Move on with the nurse.
And the one that plays his girlfriend is like his wife in real life. So he's actually being very, monogamous.
Very monogamous.
Very.
Man. Very religious man.
Yeah.
Nuclear family Seagal, they should call him.
Yeah. And he's also like, he's been a bit quiet lately.
Well, he's in Russia. He's a
Oh.
Russian citizen, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. He's besties with Putin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The two of them do karate with each other and stuff like that.
He has like a black belt.
Yeah.
Right. Well, did you know? So Nothing Compares to You by Sinead O'Connor was the Irish and UK #1 song. Can you guess what Sinead O'Connor and Steven Seagal have in common?
I'm guessing many of our listeners don't know.
No. So, they're both banned by SNL. They're barred from being on the show.
Both for different reasons, I'd imagine.
So, you had Sinead O'Connor was banned that time when she ripped up the picture of the Pope. And I think Steven Seagal was just banned because they didn't like him. Apparently he was just really difficult, I think, to work
Obtuse
with.
behind the scenes.
He wouldn't do the monologues right. He just was not cooperating. And they're like, that guy's never coming on again. So one was kind of for, both for petty reasons, I think, obviously.
Yeah.
But she brings Sinead. Oh, I was going to say bring her back, but she can't.
Aw, rest in peace, Sinead.
Yeah, but that's it really. And then, yeah, Steven Seagal. Well, I read that he might be horrible to women. He might be besties with an actual evil villain.
The actual villain from his movies. He's ended up being besties
with him. So he's probably a very problematic, not very nice guy. But I read that he wants to protect baby elephants. He wanted to prevent torture of baby elephants in Thailand. I'm just saying, people.
Nobody's against that.
People are complex.
So it's like Mike Tyson with the pigeons.
Yeah, Mike Tyson from our old buddy there from the Punch-Out game. Horrible to women, yes. He's nice to pigeons.
That's a lot of credit in the bank for him.
No, I'm just saying. No. Moving on. Let's get into this plot.
Ay, caramba!
Okay, so the chalkboard gag for this one is, I will not instigate revolution.
He's like Nelson Mandela.
It's all coming back full circle. This whole Cromulent Craic Show episode.
The Simpsons writers predicted it all. And then the couch gag is the Simpsons pile up on the couch. Maggie pops up in the air and Marge catches her. Yawn.
Couch gags are like, if they're even in the episodes in season 1, they're like very lame.
Oh, I know. Well, we'll get to the good ones. So the episode starts with a sad-looking Lisa staring at herself in the mirror in the bathroom, and Homer's knocking on the door wanting her to hurry up.
Yeah, she's just sad for no reason, really, isn't it? It doesn't explain.
No, I think that's an interesting point of like it literally just starts with her sad. There's no kind of catalyst really of kind of like, oh, she got an F or something in her exams, or she got yelled at, or she's being bullied. We just don't know the context. And
it kind of sets the tone then that it's going to be like less. The episodes we got up until now are a bit more goofy, cartoony kind of episodes.
This one has a tiny bit more pathos now.
Yeah, exactly. Pathos is a great word for it.
And
this is also the first one I noticed, maybe Duffy Beer, that we've done so far, where like the like score of the episode sounds like a later Simpsons episode. It's got the little like cues between scenes and stuff.
Because I think they have a different composer. Is it Alf Cosman or something? That's the actual composer for The Simpsons. But they had someone else
doing the
that just it still didn't have its exact kind of
sound
and feel to it yet. But I think in this one it's interesting, especially because Lisa is going to be playing the saxophone. We get that kind of feel for the music The Simpsons is kind of famous for then.
Yeah, and the atmosphere and stuff.
Yeah. And then at breakfast, Marge only has 2 cupcakes left. Again, they look like muffins.
Not another cupcake episode.
I can't, right? You don't know what cupcakes are, okay? Stop saying it. Stop lying to my face.
They're in your muffin from your cupcake.
And Lisa's just like, oh, Homer and Bart can have them. And it's like this big, like, oh, she's such a martyr.
Yeah.
And later during band practice at school, the band sounds terrible. Maybe, it's because they're playing something that sounds like the UK national anthem.
Yeah, maybe Lisa doesn't want to get involved in
she's like
the UK national anthem.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's actually My Country, 'Tis of Thee, and it's an American kind of, it kind of uses the UK national anthem at the time. It was like a revolution song.
But they're like, we got no monarchy.
We got no monarchy, and it's kind of like a bit sort of like, sarcastic really. But it still sounds like it.
Yeah.
And Lisa gets in trouble with her music teacher, Mr. Largo, for improvising, and she's jamming away on the saxophone. And which, you know what? I'll get into it maybe, but like, so I agree with Largo because it's okay to be creative in your work. But Lisa here, she's playing in an orchestra and she's not on her own. So when you're in an orchestra, you have to be like kind of synchronized with your band members and follow the conductor. So she's going off on her own tangent, and that would be fine if you're in a solo. But in a group, you have to be on time, and it makes everyone else look bad. So yeah, I'm just saying that.
Not quite my tempo.
Not quite my tempo, yeah. Mr. Largo's like J.K. Simmons. And so Mr. Largo, he was partly inspired by a grumpy music teacher Matt Groening had as a child.
I would say he's inspired by Matt Groening himself, because Matt Groening in the commentaries is quite...
Matt Groening is Mr. Largo in the commentaries, because he's like, oh, I don't like the look of that.
All the
Oh,
animators get a telling off in those
oh,
commentaries.
yeah, the crying, those tears look
Oh, this
terrible.
looks awful.
Yeah. And his name is an Italian word for slow, broad musical tempo. So a possible reference to the fact that he makes very boring music. Like, in my country, 'tis of thee.
Yeah, the most boring sounding song ever.
Yeah. And
British national. My country is of tea.
but yeah, so like I know Lisa's going off jamming away, which is, yeah, I think a bit selfish, but at the same time, given how the family treats her playing her saxophone at home, it's probably her only chance to play at all, like on a regular basis. So she probably does feel very stifled, which we will see. And then at lunchtime, so there's a food fight going on. I don't know. I don't think there was ever a food fight in our school. These are big things.
Yeah, we never had that either.
Oh, I know.
I think it's because you'd be bringing a packed lunch and it's all you get all day. Kind of.
And then also, like, we had to do like lunchtime duty in schools, so
Yeah, we
you would
had-
have to clean up, and you'd be like, ugh, piece of old crust. Ugh.
These little schools we went to didn't have any janitors or that really coming around.
Caretakers. or
Lunch
anything.
ladies or...
Yeah. So at lunch anyway, there's a food fight. So Lisa does nothing and just sits there and looks depressed. And during gym class, then she's playing dodgeball, and Lisa doesn't move, and she's getting pummeled by all the dodgeballs. And she's like, she can't. The teacher's like, what's wrong with you? And she's like, I can't play because she's too sad. Oh.
So it sets it up like this is the darkest episode yet, the
Lisa's
most serious
depressed,
episode
yeah.
yet. Yeah, dealing with depression. Depression in an 8-year-old as well, which is quite like very dark.
Worrying.
Yeah.
I don't know, social services.
Yeah,
I would be
maybe.
getting on to. The gym teacher has no sympathy for her though, and actually she's voiced by Miriam Flynn, who is so this gym teacher is called Miss Barr. Instead of the other there's like the other PE teacher, so there's Mrs. Pommelhurst. Do you remember, like, hello? Remember the little girl?
Yeah. I'd like to get down
I'd
now.
like to get down now. But yeah, so Miriam Flynn plays Miss Barr here, and you might know her. She was a very famous sheep in 1995.
And babe.
And babe, she's Maddie.
Ma.
Meh. And so her best role ever, I think she is like a voice actress, but yeah, Ma.
Oh, babe. Babe is another
Class.
heavy.
Oh, that's so sad. Oh, we won't go into that. It's so sad. But so after school then, Bart and Homer are playing a boxing video game, so which I mentioned earlier actually. But this one's called Super Slugfest, so likely a reference to Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
They could have called it like Dredder Tatum's Punch In.
Punch In. Slugfest, yeah. And I find it funny, so the video game features in Deep Deep Trouble in the music video, so Martin and Nelson are playing it. So it does pop up again, but Homer, poor Homer, is unable to defeat Bart and suffers like, I think it's like his 49th loss on it or something. So he's useless, I relate. But Marge walks in and shows Homer a note from school about Lisa. The note is a report from Principal Skinner informing Homer and Marge that Lisa was too sad to play dodgeball at school. Too sad to play dodgeball. Yeah, so Homer and Marge are obviously worried, and they try to cheer Lisa up, but she's consumed with existentialism. She's like,
Worries about the suffering of the world.
suffering in the world. And poor Homer. I find this is actually a very kind of like classic Simpson kind of thing, because Homer is sort of, Lisa's telling him all about this stuff about, wonders if the world would be any different if she didn't exist, and she's very fatalistic about everything. And then Homer's just there, rocking her on the knee, and he's like, oh, come on, Lisa, horsey. And it feels very much like kind of classic Homer. I find that he's just slipped straight into like the Homer we know.
Yeah, no,
He doesn't dismiss her. He just kind of doesn't understand, and he's trying to be a loving father, but he's
Make
just
her happy.
oblivious. Yeah.
He's still thinking about her as a kind of a 4-year-old or something. Maybe.
Yeah. And then so when Homer can't come up with a good answer, Marge just tells Lisa to go take a hot bath. And then Bart's like, what? I don't know. Homer doesn't know what to do, so he just tells Bart to like vacuum the floor. And then when Lisa's done with her bath, she walks into the living room. So Bart's still vacuuming and he's giving out about it. And Maggie's sitting by herself on the sofa watching Bart and Lisa. And I think it's just a thing of like, oh, Maggie, who does Maggie like more? And Bart and Lisa are trying to coax her, just saying, oh yeah, come on Maggie, you love me more.
Come to me.
And Maggie chooses TV. So I think that's a funny, again, just Lisa's just sort of like, no one
would ever choose me.
No one would choose me. And Maggie, it is like a go-to, like just the kids love TV more than their family members.
Maggie's a 90s baby like us, so
she'd be definitely like a iPad baby if she was.
Yeah, in modern Simpsons she is.
In modern Simpsons they apparently are now. So Homer and Marge are millennials now at this stage, and Bart and Lisa are like,
oh god,
are they Gen Zs or are they alphas? They're alphas.
Alphas now, yeah.
Ah, jeez Louise.
So later on, Homer and Bart are playing Super Slugfest or Punch Out again, where Bart easily wins again, and Homer blames the loss on Lisa's loud saxophone playing.
Yeah, Homer, sure.
Saxophone.
So Homer goes up to Lisa's room to yell at her, and Lisa agrees to just practice on playing the notes without blowing into the saxophone. She's like, it's okay, Dad, I'll just practice my fingering. And he's like, you play those keys as loud as you want.
You keep clacking.
You keep clacking, wherever. So Homer's supportive, but not supportive, actually. So
yeah, he's kind of.
I find again, it's Homer being like what we kind of consider Homer.
Yeah, or he's.
I could picture this scene in like season 3 or 4.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So
then this is the scene after this is the really cool one, isn't it?
Yeah, Lisa hears a saxophone playing off in the distance, so outside her window, and she like leaves the house to find the source. So she's following the music through the town, and she passes all these so she's going about. It's really atmospheric, the animation. It's all these dark colors, and the dark colors of the streets, and then the moonlight, and it's all that really, like as I said kind of earlier, it's that kind of all those backgrounds in the atmospheric Simpson Instagram page, and you can imagine all this lo-fi jazzy music in the background
over these cool shots of Springfield.
Yeah. And so we meet, this is our first introduction to Bleeding Gums Murphy, a soulful saxophonist who plays the blues. And
iconic character.
Yeah, so I laugh. She finds him playing on Suicide Bridge. So apparently in the commentary, Matt Groening was saying that he used to walk on the bridge, and it used to be called the Suicide Bridge. So he'd walk on this bridge every day going to school. Nothing morbid about that.
Suicide Bridge.
Suicide Bridge. And I think this is the one that Homer's going to commit suicide of. So
it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the same one.
So Springfield has its own Suicide Bridge. And so yeah, Bleeding Gums Murphy, this could be kind of the first episode to be considered kind of featuring a special guest star, so outside the ones who would then frequently work on the show. And he's voiced by Ron Taylor. So he's kind of known for playing Audrey too in Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh.
Yeah, in the original, I think, production of the musical, not the film. And Bleeding Gums Murphy, he was loosely based on this famous 1920s blues musician, so Blind Lemon Jefferson.
Blind Lemon Jefferson.
Yeah, and there's just a sad fun fact, I suppose. So he had his most famous song was kind of a tune called "See That My Grave Is Kept Clean," and when he died, he was buried at it was Wortham Black Cemetery in like Freestone County, Texas. So, this was kind of back then before kind of the civil rights movements and that. So his grave was unmarked until the 1960s, like 1967. And then by 1996, the cemetery was in such poor condition that a new granite headstone was erected in 1997 then. And it was like, the inscription read, "Lord, It's one kind favor I'll ask of you. See that my grave is kept clean.
Wow.
So in 2007, the cemetery's name was changed to Blind Lemon Memorial Cemetery, and his gravestone is like kept clean by a cemetery committee in Wortham.
Oh,
I just thought it's sad. It's like,
yeah.
geez, it was left all like to get just totally, dilapidated and that. And then it's just like his song asked that.
That's the one thing he asked
The
for.
one thing. And then eventually he was like, listen, his epitaph is like, come on.
Yeah. How many times do I have to
How
tell you
many
that?
times do I got to tell you? So, then back meanwhile in the Simpson house, everyone's asleep and Marge dreamed about her childhood, her sad.
This bit's so sad.
Yeah, this bit is just, so Marge is in her dream, she's a sad little girl, and before she's going out to play or something, her mother tells her, and she's like, oh Margie, make sure you smile so everyone knows you've got a good mommy. So she's basically told, and then she does this little forced smile, and the mom's
smile,
and the mom's like, hee, big teeth. And basically she's just told to suppress her feelings. And, I suppose it's no coincidence then that Marge's mother, when we see her like in current day kind of stuff, she's just this horrible, critical old woman. She's just an old bag.
Broken down from the kind
broken down with her. She's got a hoarse voice, and she's just like, even like in I think the Thanksgiving episode is the first time we see her properly then, and she refuses to waste her vocal cords on any positivity towards her family. She's just like, I just want to say, basically I've had a horrible time.
Yeah.
She's horrible. So you can always see how that always smile mindset has really actually broken her down.
It's not a good thing.
It's not good for your mental health, kids. Don't. But poor Marge. Marge. We've seen Marge in like future flashbacks. It's like, this here's a cornfield, honey. And that's like the plane comes down,
shooting at them.
Like Marge has such a sad little childhood. So she's dreaming that, and meanwhile Homer's there dreaming that he's trapped in the boxing video game with Bart, and Bart knocks him out, and
he's like, you're old now, Homer.
You're old. It's like, go easy on me, boy. And he's like, I am going easy on you.
Oh man.
And then Homer, this is brilliant. So Homer like wakes up screaming from his nightmare, and it's just the best. It's like he just screams and then just goes back to sleep. So he sits up, which would be physically very hard to sit up.
Come straight up onto his sitting.
Yeah, and it's just, that's like pure, like a lot of the jokes are just hitting it in this episode.
Yeah, definitely.
So Homer just goes back to sleep, and Marge is like trying to wake her up again. She's expressing her concern about Lisa's sadness to Homer, and she's like, oh, she's becoming a young woman. And then Homer's like, oh, it's an underwear thing. Just again, he just does not understand.
He's so clueless to it all.
It's like, yeah, and then again, it's just the thing. It's like, that's your thing to understand, Marge. I've
got nothing to do with
I got
this.
nothing to do with this. But so then meanwhile we see Lisa, and she's jamming away with Bleeding Gums Murphy, and she's expressing herself through music. She learns from him, like, that's the best way to kind of express yourself.
Turn those emotions into songs.
They sing then this song, like Lisa's singing the song. It's like, I got a crappy brother. Do, 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 do. So it's Moaning Lisa blues. Yeah.
This morning my own mother
gave my last cupcake away. Yeah, she's actually very good. Like Yardley Smith's a very good singer. But this track would go on. It'd be featured on the album The Simpsons Sings the Blues, which is not a great album from what I've heard.
No,
it's not.
I haven't listened to it that much of it.
It's not. Now the only original songs on it are like, sort of Deep Trouble, and obviously the Bartman.
Bartman's on it,
but it's all these covers of like Homer, like.
This is season 1 though, isn't it?
Season 1. It was very ambitious to have an album
for one season of the show.
Yeah.
Not even 10 hours of content, really.
I just laugh. The saxophone we'll see later. So when he's playing that Moaning Lisa blues song later at the end of the episode, that song, the saxophone piece in that, I always remember like season 9 of The Simpsons is where they're waiting in line to go in. So the menu would be like they're waiting in line to go into this jazz hole club kind of thing, and that song's playing all throughout the the menu.
And
Yeah.
that's the one comes up next to season 9.
And like, yeah, so it's just anytime I hear that kind of the ending credits, I'm like, oh, it brings me back to when I first got the DVD and I was all excited. But yeah, so Bleeding Gums kind of tells Lisa, look, I'm going to be playing at this club called the Jazz Hole, which is a very big euphemism there. I think on the commentary they're like, how did we get away with this?
Yeah.
And then a worried Marge, after realizing Lisa's gone,
Pulls up in the car, doesn't she?
yeah, great. Like mother instincts there. She's just like, I know where my baby is.
Yeah.
And she's there and she's like, get away from that jazz man.
And then she's like, sorry, but I...
It's like, no, it's like, could probably sound a bit kind of like, Marge, are you being a bit racist, maybe?
Yeah.
Well, it's like, I would also worry about this strange man with bad teeth near my
says-
child on a suicide bridge.
I think she's like, yeah, she pulls these and she's, get away from that jazz man. And she's like, sorry, but I just don't trust the unknown.
The unknown, which is true. It's like, you don't know this guy. Stranger danger,
Yeah.
Lisa. So then the next day, so this is the kind of weird bit I was saying, like, so Homer watches a news report in the living room then the next day, and it's about, he discovers like Barney's Bolorama has burned down, and he runs into the kitchen to tell Marge bad news. And I think that's just like, that's it. That's all. He just needs a reason to go into the room.
Get him into the kitchen.
And then Marge is like freshing about Lisa, and she's like, oh, never mind that, Homer. And it's like, why? It's just a strange little, why did you need to have this?
Yeah, he sees it on the news report, runs into the kitchen. Marge,
Yeah.
Marge, you won't believe it.
You won't believe what happens. Like, and it's just, I think that's strange. And then meanwhile, yeah, that's why I just mentioned the thing from earlier, because I'm like, oh,
It happened the day before.
the day before.
It's a creepy
the
coincidence.
Las Cruces thing. Yeah, very sad. But yeah, so he runs in the kitchen, tell Marge about the Bolorama, and Marge is fretting over Lisa. Then Bart enters the kitchen. Like, all they had to do was that. Like, Homer and Marge sitting at the table or something, and
Bart
Bart's there.
enters. Yeah.
But Bart enters the kitchen, and Marge tells him to find Lisa and be nice to her, to cheer her up. And she's like, do you love your sister? And he's like, oh, Mom,
Don't make me see it.
Yeah, which is kind of a true thing, I can imagine. I don't have any brothers, but I can imagine they'd be like very reluctant to say they love me. So Bart finds Lisa, and in an effort to cheer her up, he's like, come on, play a prank phone call to Mo. And again, I can't remember that exact kind of prank.
I can't remember it either.
It's a
one of the
tame
more-
one
yeah,
anyway. It's not one of the classics.
It's not one of the
I got a
iconic
stupid
ones.
face, and my face is stupid, and
Yeah.
but Lisa isn't amused. So, and then we have another cut then to Homer. So Homer's walking into the local video arcade back when they existed, and he goes up. He seeks the advice on Super Slugfest from this cool kid, this real cool 90s kid
He's
called
got
Howie.
like the backwards cap on, the shades.
He's like, hey, how are you doing? He's so he's kind of like the cool, the
Gamer guy.
gamer dude, and he's voiced by Susan Blue, who was one of the weasels in the last episode. She doesn't. I don't think she. I don't know if she turns up again. One of the weasels voices the kind of then the barmaid in Flamin' Moe's and that.
Yes.
And so who knows? They're all the same, these weasels.
You never
But-
know where they're going to come out of.
Where they're going to pop out next. So then after some time, Homer he's kind of learning from this kid, and he's learning enough tricks then to defeat Bart. And then the boy's mom, Howie's mom, comes over, and she's giving out to Homer for being in the arcade. She's like, and shouldn't you go home?
The
Why are
age
you?
of you.
Yeah, she's like, what age are you? What are you on? And he's like, oh, I think I hear my wife calling me. And it's kind of like, because this is like 1990, so I suppose adult gamer culture wasn't really around yet. So you had movies like Tron out and The Wizard, all these kind of gamer.
Joysticks, stuff weird.
Oh, in my pursuit of looking for, I was just like, what's kind of video games big around this time? Like, kind of more adult video game movies, and I unfortunately came across a movie called Joysticks from 1987.
Oh.
It's basically a porn movie. Do not look it up.
Oh, it's gross.
It's
I'm pretty sure
gross.
it was originally supposed to be a
I
porn
think it
movie.
was. I just cannot imagine. It's a bit kind of like, all these kind of Animal House style things. I don't even get. It's like this arcade, but it's not really an arcade, and it's teenagers, and they're
Yeah, that's the thing. They're all under like 17.
yeah, and I'm like, these women are topless and oh, it's just gross. So I don't know. I would agree with Howie's mom. I wouldn't trust a man
In an
around
argument.
my child. Get away from him.
But
So
Homer got the skills from it anyway,
he got
didn't
the
he?
skills, you know,
With his aid.
And so then later on, then Marge is taking Lisa to band practice, and on the way, she thinks back to her mother's advice to her as a child to bury your emotions and remain smiling. So she's like basically she is like, push your feelings way down past your knees until you're walking on them.
Bottle it all up.
Bottle it all up.
Pretend to be happy.
Pretend to be happy. That's how her marriage has been lasting so long.
Oh, no, yeah.
Aw.
For Marge.
And then her advice kind of seems very true to her character, you know, especially when you figure out like how she puts up, you know, with her family and everything and years to come. Like, especially, there's going to be a few episodes coming up now where I'm just like, Marge, dump Homer, dump him.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's like in Marge's character as well that she would be kind of like worried about coming across as a bad mother even.
Yeah.
And like, you know, if people see that Lisa's not happy or something, Marge would take that personally, you'd imagine her.
Yeah. It's poor Marge. And there's all just small things. Like, she's always like kind of suffering for her family. Even the thing that when they go to New York and she's like, oh, if only I didn't already own a pair of shoes.
Oh, yeah.
She's just
yeah.
so sad. So then, yeah, because you see later on, like, you know, in Homer Alone, the episode where she basically has a nervous breakdown. Like,
She has to go away.
she
yeah.
snaps and she has to go. She's being forced to go away to resort to a hotel, and Homer's in charge of looking after Maggie. And then you see like the Fear Flying episode, the one where it's like, this is a cornfield, honey.
Yeah, I think Marge needs to.
She has to confront her own mental health problems.
I think Marge has been bottling up a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And then, so, you know, Marge is there telling Lisa to smile. Like, she's like, smile, keep your feelings, true feelings inside. And she's like, so you can fit in and the other kids will like you and boys will like you and ask you out. And it's like, yes, that's all that matters. And it's such poor advice, but Marge really means it. Like, she's so sincere and she actually does believe this will make her daughter happy. And that's actually, like, you know, that's what she wants.
Yeah, yeah.
And then she's like, she drops.
She's not doing it out of badness, yeah.
No, and she's doing it. She genuinely does believe. I think that's really nice about this episode is that Homer, Marge, even Bart, they're all trying their best.
And even if their advice comes across as bad, I don't think their intentions ever are.
No, and it's like, you know, even say Bart's way is like, oh, let's make some phone calls, like prank calls, like that'll cheer you up.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And Homer's like, oh, here, I'll rock you on my knee, horsey.
Keep clacking.
Keep clacking, and Marge is there. You know, it's just their ways of trying to help Lisa. And but anyway, she drops Lisa off in front of the school, and she's like observing Lisa fake smiling and interacting with the other kids. And she sees Lisa is hiding then her true feelings, but then she's being taken advantage of by her classmates, and she's like told to do their homework by some of the boys. One of these boys is apparently
A big one coming up, yeah, big shock.
big first introduction to Ralph Wiggum.
And he's a completely different guy.
He's completely, so he just literally...
When you can tell it's him, it's like a deformed drawing of him, but
Oh,
his
it's...
personality is so different.
Yeah, he's literally just like, he sounds like Nelson nearly, and this is his credit, like his first credited appearance, like it is legit him. And even though he's just completely different appearance and behavior, like, you know, I think Ralph's modern design then first appeared more in the second season. I think Homer versus Lisa and the Eighth Commandment.
And that's the Ralph that we all know.
That's the
kind of.
one, yeah, that the Bloodhound Gang wrote a song about. But yeah, he had sort of Nelson Muntz's kind of voice, until kind of like Nancy Cartwright was obviously voicing nearly all the boys on this show at the time.
Yeah.
So then she kind of settled more into sort of a higher pitched kind of little whiny voice.
And he's telling Lisa to do his homework.
Yeah, he's like, why are you hanging out with her? You know she's just weird.
Yeah.
I was like, leave her alone, Ralph. Okay, but
It's way before I choose you.
yeah, this is the girl you love. You can see his heart breaking right there. But Marge then, like, she sees Lisa's being reduced to like just, just someone there that's like meant to just not complain, and she's not liking that. And Mr. Largo then comes out and he's telling Lisa, he's like, oh, I hope we don't hear any more of that creativity from you again today, Lisa. And Marge is like gritting her
She's
teeth.
looking at Lisa, smiling through it all.
And she's like, yeah, no, I won't. And then Marge realizes they're of her ways, and she quickly does this big tire squealing U-turn. She's like, yeah, and snatches Lisa and drives away. And in the car, like, she's apologizing and tells Lisa it's okay to be sad. I laugh. Mr. Largo's like, oh, that's where she gets it from.
Yeah, because he sees Marge.
I like the way that it has that kind of slight kind of like Mr. Largo is like sarcastic.
Punchline.
Yeah. But yeah, she's telling Lisa then it's okay to be sad. And this is the bit I think everyone kind of cries over. I think this is
a real touching scene. Yeah.
This is right. Do you know those videos, I think when you have like chill wave, Simpson wave or something, when they would like make again lo-fi songs and they'd add like jazzy hip hop beats over something from a film, like a very personal. I heard a lot of like, do you know or not monologue, but the scene in like Little Miss Sunshine where the granddad's telling the little girl,
that would be over the music.
Yeah,
like
and
Alan
he's
Watts
just
quotes
it's like, Daddy, it's like, Granddad, do you think I'm pretty? And then he's like, you're the most beautiful girl around. And then you would hear the hip hop beats after.
Yeah,
there was like a period of time when I was back in college, like where that was all used.
You're studying music,
and I can imagine this is kind of like this, like, you want to be sad.
This would be a great one.
Yeah, I wonder, it might be one, but it's like I can imagine like a thing of Marge going. So basically, she just goes, "You want to be sad, honey? Be sad. We'll write it out with you. And when you get finished feeling sad, we'll still be there. From now on, let me do the smiling for both of us." And then I can imagine it going into kind of like a little beat.
Chill hop kind of.
Yeah, and
it's a very touching bit. Yeah.
Oh, it's really touching, and it's like, it is kind of thing, and it's like, we'll support you no matter what. And if we can't make you it's like, if you can't be happy, it's not your fault if you can't be happy.
Yeah.
Your feelings are valid, and it's just like,
don't feel bad for
don't feel
being
bad.
happy.
We'll be here for you, and if you ever want, it's just really good parenting kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's basically like she should be herself no matter what, and her family will always be there to support her. And her support kind of helps Lisa to feel genuinely happy, and she smiles naturally, because it's like, she's like, I'll smile for the both of us. And it's like, she's like, I told you, Lisa, you don't have to smile. And she goes, but I feel like smiling. And the two of them were just loving each other.
Yeah, and it makes Lisa feel better as well.
It's very touching. And it's sad, and Marge is like, you know what, I'll smile for the both of us. So again, she's not really addressing her own mental. That's why she'll have a nervous breakdown in a few seasons, but we'll get to that. But
I think Marge is smiling for all of them.
All of them. It's like, we'll get to you, Marge. Yeah, she should take her own advice, basically. But she's putting her own child's needs before her own. Like, she is so selfless, Marge. But so then back at the house, Bart and Homer playing Super Slugfest again. If I say that again one more time.
Yeah.
And this time Homer is winning the fight. So all that Howie.
He's using the skills from Howie, isn't
he? Sensei Howie. Master Howie. So Marge walks in to make an announcement, but Homer's too busy to listen. He's literally on the verge of winning, and he's like, one more. And this is so horrible. Marge pulls the plug out on the game and to gain his attention.
And he's about to win.
It's so unfair. And then Homer's there. Oh no! There's a little high-pitched whinge. He's like, yeah! And then Marge pulls the plug out of the game, and then this whimper. Oh, it's so funny. But Bart just there and then he like announces his retirement as undefeated video boxing champ. That he's never playing again. He's done. Homer will never gain closure from it.
Oh no, poor Homer.
And then Marge.
A bit unfair to it.
I just like, Marge, could you not just let them finish the game? It's like, Lisa's not going anywhere. So then she's like, sorry, Homer, but Lisa has an announcement for everyone. And it's like, Lisa has a fun idea. So later the Simpsons visit the jazz hole.
And the Lean Comes Murphy and his band is playing up on the stage.
Yeah, and they're singing that little like song that Lisa was singing. And he's there, I got a bratty brother.
And he sings the bit about Homer as well, and Homer's like tapping away to it, and he's like, huh?
It's like, He belongs in the zoo. I'm the sass kid in grade number two. And then dash bit at the credit then, in the credits, that's when that always reminds me, season 9, the menu page.
When you're picking your episode.
It's like, I'm going to take my time.
So Lisa's all cheered up at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see in the ranking then if this episode cheered us up.
Mm.
Or does it have us moaning Duffy Beer in Dill House?
Are we going to be moaning about this score?
Worst episode ever.
All right, so it's time to get into the ranking of Moaning Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
Will we be moaning about this episode, Duffy Beer?
I don't know.
Will it cure our depression?
Cure our terrible depressions?
It just might.
It might. I'm cured.
Let's see, is it the best one yet, or is it another Homer's Odyssey where it tries to deal with something quite a bit serious but doesn't quite get there?
Homer's Odyssey was like, let's have this character commit suicide, and it's just like, okay, let's just not handle that episode with any nuance whatsoever.
So for our ranking system, we've got 3 categories, and we rank each.
No, we have 4 actually.
We have 4 categories, sorry.
The maths is very hard.
For me it is. I've got to crayon up my brain. So there's 4 categories that we rank each of them out of 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then we give a total score out of 12 for the episode.
Mm-hmm.
So those categories are emotion,
Mm-hmm.
which is how does the episode tug on the heartstrings?
Yeah.
You know, how does it make you feel? Do you tear up at it?
Do you feel anything?
Some episodes you feel absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Homer's Odyssey. The second category is laughs. Obviously very important for The Simpsons. Show known for its humour and how funny it is and stuff like that. The third category is lines. So how quotable is the show? How like good is the writing and that, like,
especially for Simpsons, like you're always going to quote it.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, pretty much 2 of us being 90s kids, like it's part of our like wiring of our brain. It's like Simpsons quotes. And then the fourth category is story. So in a 3-arc structure, how does it flow? How consistent are the characters and stuff like that? A lot of season 1 isn't that consistent.
No.
I wonder, can this one break the trend, though, Duffy Bear?
Could.
So starting back with emotion, what are we giving it for emotion, do you think, Duffy Bear, and why?
Well, with emotion, I would definitely say this is actually the most, just the deepest kind of episode we've had so far, and it's also the most kind of like, yeah, it's a very emotional episode, really. Marge's speech, I think, is the main thing people get from this episode. So the whole episode is obviously quite heavy, but then when Marge gives that little speech, it's like, you be sad, honey, and we'll be with you the whole time. Yeah, that stuff is just really
very touching.
After watching this episode, like the first time watching in years, like I actually genuinely did cry a bit during that bit.
Yeah, no, it is. It's very, very, very touching moment.
Yeah, and even there's sweeter moments of even Homer and Bart trying to help Lisa in their own way. There's something just, the whole episode, it's the best kind of like sort of depiction of the family so far, I think, as actually a family. You know, the way, say, in the episode No Disgrace Like Home, we saw how dysfunctional the family is, but we didn't actually sense their connection to each other. So I think this is just a better way of, like, this is what The Simpsons, you know, even if they are dysfunctional, they're still a family and they still love each other.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I give it 3 out of 3.
3 out of 3 for emotion. Yeah, no, it's hard to argue against that. Very, definitely the most emotional episode so far.
And
definitely
then
the most touching, as you said, seeing the family kind of being a family.
Yeah.
And trying to be there for Lisa and stuff like that.
Yeah, in their own way. I know the ending kind of, you know, wraps up a bit too nicely, I think, but I think overall it does leave you with that kind of sense of kind of just satisfaction, really, and you're just happy for these characters.
Yeah. And then what about laughs, Duffy Bear? How funny was this one?
So this episode really actually made me laugh out loud, like LOL properly. Like, but so it's a heavy enough episode. Obviously, it's the main plot is Lisa dealing with her depression, but the B plot is so funny in this episode. I find all of Homer scenes are just great. I think the bit especially is just say, do you know the bit where he wakes up and he screams from his nightmare?
Oh, yeah.
And that bit, and then even the bit where Marge pulls out the telly and he's like, oh no.
It's the real classic Homer scream.
Yeah, like Homer's acting in this is great. And I found, and like even bits of like Homer dealing with things, he's just like, oh, come on, Lisa, horsey. It's just
You keep clacking.
You just keep clacking them keys as low as you want.
Yeah.
And even the bits with like Mr. Largo and that, Mr. Largo's very sarcastic in this episode. I quite like it.
Yeah, it's something different, isn't it?
And, even there's a scene there where Lisa's talking to Mr. Largo, during when she kind of interrupts the whole practice, and she's like, but this is for all the people that are hungry on the street, and she's giving this big emotional speech, and he's like, oh, Lisa, all those terrible people won't be at the recital.
Mr. Largo. Very sarcastic dude.
So very sarcastic. So I do think it's obviously a heavier episode. I think obviously because Lisa's story isn't that funny. It's all the bits with kind of interjections of, say, with Homer and Mr. Largo. So I will give it a 2 out of 3.
2, that's very fair, yeah.
Yeah.
Still a good score.
Yeah.
Still a funny episode. Kind of tying into the laughs then a wee bit, I guess, Duffy Beer. And not just laughs, but I guess it can be any bit of good writing or memorable quotes written. What would you give this episode out of 3 for lines?
Well, I think the main thing about this episode that I can remember really is Marge's speech. I think Marge's speech is just, it's so hitting really, and it's just something that, remember I said like, oh, you could take this whole like kind of little section out and have a standalone thing. I can actually imagine people like auditioning for something with this speech. I don't know.
As their piece, kind of.
It's just it's so beautiful. Just Marge's care for her daughter, this bit, and I think it just ties the episode up really nicely for Lisa's character in the end. I know, as we said, Marge needs to deal with her own stuff, but it's just a thing of kind of like the most selfless kind of depiction of love for a child, and I think there's obviously other bits I remember from this episode. I do think it's a very quotable episode, just more so of like just Homer and little funny lines.
That's what I was going to say. Could you say his scream is kind of
his scream, and
when
it's
she
like,
pulls out the video game at the end.
it's kind of like, the way Homer has that very manic kind of way of like he cries or he screams, and oh no. And he's like, but even the introduction of Blinkums Murphy, there's just a lot of very memorable characters in this.
Blinkums Murphy is such a memorable character,
isn't he? And he's only in 2 episodes.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Like, well, I know he's in a few other episodes, like he's singing in the Dancing Homer episode, but it's actually not the voice actor. But he's brought back, when it's the episode, it's like my addiction to Fabergé eggs.
Yeah.
And something like that where, it's just, he's such an iconic character. It's just mad he's only in
2 episodes.
2 episodes.
It's crazy.
I would have thought he was in like kind of a lot of the earlier episodes, and he's not. But yeah, I give it for this episode definitely, just because of Marge's speech alone, 3.
I think so. I'd agree with that, and I think the speech as well, coming from a show in the like late 80s, early 90s when this would have been written. This is like very like, proactive way of dealing with like mental health and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it doesn't poo-poo it of like suddenly Lisa's happy again. It's more that
they buy her a new saxophone and that solves the problem
that
or
solves
something.
it.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, or there's some sort of like solution. It's more that right now it's just a support and kind of a bit more understanding just from the people in her life really. And yeah, I think it's a really mature way of looking at things like mental health as well, and I don't know, just really well done. Really,
Definitely.
I think it was very, it's a very delicate kind of, theme as well. But I think it was just very masterfully done, very well written.
Definitely. And then for story, Duffy Beer, I personally think that this is like the most consistent episode yet, especially with the characters. I'm excited to hear what you've got to say about it, Duffy Beer. So what are we giving it for story out of 3?
So I think So it wouldn't be my favorite, say, Lisa storyline, but I think for one of the earlier episodes, I think it's very, very memorable. I think it's very well written, just like from the beginning, from her being sad for no really kind of specific reason, and then just kind of you're going along this whole episode with Lisa, and it ties in great. Then I think it's actually a lovely kind of Lisa and Marge episode. You don't get as many of them. I think the next time we have something this really kind of where Lisa and Marge are really involved with each other is kind of the Angel episode, I would say.
It's weird because it's a duo that you would have thought was in loads together.
Yeah, because you mostly get like Lisa Homer episodes.
Bart Marge kind of.
Even Bart Marge episodes. But Lisa and Marge, not so much. Just sort of like them relating with each other. I just think it's also just a really good indication of how emotional the show could be. Like it was kind of trying to be a bit more than your kind of typical kind of Flintstone style kind of comedy of like an animated family, but then also it was probably trying to, like, even we saw attempts there with, say, I know we give out about Homer's Odyssey, like it was trying to go in different directions,
deal with a darker theme,
and
kind of
deal with kind of like, is it going to have like, say, black humor in it? It just shows that the different level of comedy that was going to be involved. And I just think really, and I just think it's just a really well written episode. Yeah, I might have like a few things. It might wrap up a bit too nicely in the end. Small, very small, kind of like little, again, I wouldn't be like, oh, it's my favorite Lisa storyline. I can think of a lot more episodes I'd rather watch with Lisa's main character.
Yeah.
But again, just, I can't fault it. No. So I give it 3 out of 3.
So 3 out of 3 for story. Wow. So this one's going to rank pretty highly then. So the next thing to do is we're going to take the score of each individual category, put it together, and then we're going to put it in our tier list. So in the tier list, we've got 5 tiers. At the bottom, we've got the dud. Just above that, we've got craptacular. Just above that, we've got oakley dokley. Above that, then we've got chock full of heady goodness. And the top tier, our S tier, is groin-grabbingly transcendent. So just a quick review then before we go into where this one goes on to the tier list, because we've got 5 episodes on our tier list so far. We have Homer's Odyssey is the only one down in the dud. So far.
Poor Homer's Odyssey. We're just really like crapping on it this whole episode as well.
I think it's very comparable to this one, you see, and it just doesn't compare well to it.
Nah.
No Disgrace Like Home is the only one in craptacular.
Yeah.
Bart the General is by itself in oakley dokley. And
not bad.
Pretty
mid-tier.
Good episode. Mid-tier, yeah. And then chock full of heady goodness is where the good ones go. And we've got 2 in there. Bart the Genius and Simpsons Roast on an Open Fire. And then for the top tier, we've got nothing in there yet. But I think Duffy Beer, we've got our first groin-grabbingly transcendent episode.
We do.
If you do the maths on this, it's an 11 out of 12 or 5 out of 5. So the first groin-grabbingly transcendent episode and our highest rated episode yet.
So far, this is the best episode we have seen so far.
I don't think we can really have any complaints about that, because it definitely is like.
Congratulations, Moaning Lisa. You get to wear the crown for now.
First ever groin-grabbingly transcendent Cromulent Craic Show episode.
Woo! Woo-hoo. Sound the alarm.
Round of applause for Moaning Lisa.
Yay. Well, that's that then. So well done.
So another thing that we like to do is we like to come up with what would be a good song to go with the episode.
Yeah.
You put this in a good way before, Duffy Beer, and you said, like, think of an AMV of the episode, or think of stuff that thematically fits the episode.
If I wanted every episode converted into a music video, what song would I want?
Very good, yeah. Very good way of putting it. Have we got one for this one, Duffy Beer?
We do indeed. We do indeed. So I think, like, as we can see from our ranking system, you could say we like things to be logical. So I have a little song from 1979 by an English rock group called Supertramp.
Is it a logical song, is it?
It is the logical song. Not the Scooter version.
Scooter!
Scooter! No, this is the Supertramp version. So the song actually received the Ivor and Novella Award from the British Academy of Composers and Songwriters, just because it was so well written. So Roger Hodgson's, who's the lead singer of this band, he has said of the song's meaning, the logical song, so quote, the logical song was born from any questions about what really matters in life. Throughout childhood, we are taught all these ways to be, and yet we are rarely told anything about our true self. We are taught about how to function outwardly, but not guided to who we are inwardly. We go from the innocence and wonder of childhood to the confusion of adolescence that often ends in the cynicism and disillusionment of adulthood. In the logical song, the burning question that came down to its rawest place was, please tell me who I am. And that's basically what the song is about, end quote. So that was from an Anne Carlini online interview I saw.
Very on brand for Supertramp. They always have songs about school being like school is bad.
Them and Pink Floyd need to
Yeah. The education system's turning people into robots.
Yeah, so it is like a combination really of the education system back then and how, it doesn't focus on actual knowledge and sensitivity and empathy. It kind of strips you of everything you are and,
Even
leaves
takes
you.
stuff like kind of drawing pictures and stuff and puts a formula behind it. I think that's what he's trying to say. Like,
Yeah.
the creativity's just sucked out of people for
Yeah.
more methodical.
And I can just, because I think the song's so well, because, Lisa is having all these questions, like she's very existentialist in this episode. And she's trying to play, the only way she can kind of express herself is say true music. And she's there and she's like, she meets Bleeding Gums Murphy, who's like the first person she meets that actually helps her express herself. And, it's just a way of kind of, everyone else is playing, oh country, whatever it is, die country.
British national anthem.
The God Save the Queen kind of style music. And she wants to kind of add her own jazzy kind of flair to it. And it's just, it is a thing of like, she's everything's telling her what to do. And she, meanwhile, is trying to sort of, embrace life itself, really. And, but she is such an intellectual character, but then it's kind of a way of just stripping her of any critical thinking or anything. But I also find the song, I think it would suit really well because there's an amazing like saxophone solo in it, and
Great shout, yeah.
Yeah, and I just imagine like her and Bleeding Gums kind of jamming on the bridge and
blasting out the logical song on the bridge.
And then like meanwhile Homer's trying to play the game and he's there trying to play the video game and he's getting beaten, and it would just go really well with the beats of the song, I think.
So it fits both the A and the B plots then.
I think so. Yeah, so the logical song, great song anyway, and I think it's just sums up Moaning Lisa really well.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think that's a great pick for a song. Give it a listen if you've never heard it.
Yeah.
It's a true classic.
Yeah.
And so is the Moaning Lisa.
And so is Moaning Lisa.
This ranking.
So far, this is the episode that would convert me to The Simpsons, I think, if I saw it back in the 90s.
If this was your first one, yeah, you'd definitely be like, oh, this show has got huge potential. So, yeah, great episode.
I'm actually really relieved that we're kind of...
We finally have a growing, grabbingly transcendent.
Yeah. It's like, because I love The Simpsons, and I'm kind of like, oh, a lot of these early episodes are kind of just not...
This feels like it's becoming The Simpsons.
Yeah, I'm excited now to kind of talk more about The Simpsons now that I'm just sort of like, this is why I actually do love.
Definitely. Well, stay tuned next time then for... Is the next one The Simpsons in the Wild?
Call of the Simpsons?
Call of the Simpsons, that's it, yes. Close
enough.
So, hi diddly ho.
It's time to go.
Diddly do 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 do.
Shh.